Hi everyone, I'm Stina. I'm CEO and founder of Yubico. Welcome to today's webinar that will take about 45 minutes and leave about 15 minutes for questions.
Welcome everyone. My name is Kevin Casey. I'm Yubico's product manager, and today we're going to introduce you to the Yubico product set and our capabilities, and of course some of the importance of how we provide security around that product set. We'll also talk about some changes to the authentication landscape and some of the options available today, specifically around YubiKey and the FIDO U2F. We'll also provide a demo at that time to let you see it firsthand and in action, and after that we'll talk again about the YubiKey and the mobile phone and where that's playing in today's space. And finally, we'll end up the presentation and open it up for questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to type those in a chat window. Our moderator will collect those and present those to us at the end, and we'll take questions until we run out of time. Again, welcome everyone, and I will now turn it over to Stina.
So, there are about 3 billion people on the internet today, poorly protected with username and passwords. And we estimate that there are about 100 million servers with limited or no protection. The hacking events that have made global headlines every week the last year are due to these two main attack vectors: user passwords and server secrets. Yubico offers simple and secure hardware-backed keys to help protect users and servers at scale. Next slide. So I founded Yubico a few years ago and in Stockholm, Sweden. And 4 years ago, I moved to California, here in Palo Alto. And today, we have teams here in Seattle, London, and Stockholm. Most of our customers and partners and revenue is from the United States. Our core product, the YubiKey, has been shipped to millions of users in more than 150 countries. Our customers, they range from security geeks, dissidents who need to protect their online identities, to political leaders and many of the world's largest enterprises. Google, Facebook, and 8 of the top 10 internet companies, they all secure their enterprise with our products. Next. So before I go into how the YubiKey works, let's look at the main technologies that are today used for user authentication. Here, you can see that there is a trade-off. At least historically, there has been a trade-off between good security, good user experience, and cost. Up in the left corner of this chart, you'll find the high security smart card. They offer great, strong public key crypto, protecting against phishing and man-in-the-middle attacks, but they have failed to scale beyond government and any high security applications due to the cost and the complexity of readers, drivers, client software, and certificate authorities. Below the smart card, you'll find the one-time password tokens that has got higher adoption, but they do not, because they don't require the same complex infrastructure. But they do not protect against phishing or the most recent advanced attacks. So the last years, the phone has raised as our savior for strong authentication. We don't need to distribute any additional hardware. However, recent breaches have shown that software on a device that is constantly connected to the internet and all kinds of trusted networks is vulnerable for malware. And that includes security chips built into devices like TPM and Trust Zone. Any identity and authentication technologies that are permanently connected to a computer or phone are exposed to malware. There are malicious code that people can download and install on their own, to Wi-Fi exploits and VPN masking. And they don't help against the social attacks where malware is tricking the user, is doing something unintended, which will continue to be the easiest way to attack users. So the last years, there's been a lot of buzz around biometrics, but these technologies are still to be proven in scale, to work, to be robust, and to not raise privacy and security concerns. Last week, the breach of 11 million fingerprints of US government employees made it clear that fingerprints are static identities that can be copied, but if you need to revoke them, it will be painful. Next slide. So we invented the YubiKey, and together with Google and NXP, we co-created FIDO U2F, a new open authentication standard that enable high-security public key authentication to scale to any number of users and services in a simple touch and without the need for drivers, client software, or CAs. In this picture, we have also circled the smart card, the one-time passcode, and the static passcode. As the YubiKey can do all of these methods too, all in the same device to comply with existing standards for authentication, for logging in to computers and VPN. Next.
Thank you, Stina. So as Stina mentioned, we're abundantly aware that passwords are clearly broken in today's market. And the challenge for organizations is how do we deal with providing strong authentication for users in an age where passwords are no longer providing the level of protection. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to introduce the YubiKey, and we'll give you a demo of ways that we can help solve that problem. So the YubiKey, we really like to focus around 2 factors, 1 touch, 0 drivers. And we mean what we say when we focus around simplicity. There's many ways to use and deploy the YubiKey for today's environments, and the ability to support any model that meets the needs and requirements of organizations is one of the strengths of our product offering and the focus of our company. We really focus around the simple password and a touch as providing that strong second factor and the ability to mitigate the risk associated with broken passwords that we still rely on today. And the options around our technology allow a single authenticator to work across all devices and platforms, utilizing that simple touch with no drivers or client software needed to support the device. So we have no batteries, it's practically indestructible, and it's manufactured in the US and Sweden. So what do we have today for product offering? We'll start at the bottom of the stack here and talk about our hardware and move up. So at the base is our foundation of our hardware platforms, which allows us to communicate over USB or NFC. And upon insert, the YubiKeys enumerate themselves as a keyboard, a smart card reader, and a smart card, as well as an NFC tag. They're all driverless. They all work out of the box with no extensions or changes required by that user. And currently, U2F is supported in Chrome with other browsers in the works today. So that gives us the widest reach within the industry as you start simplifying the need for users and providing an easy access for users to have strong authentication. As we move up, our hardware comes in a couple of different form factors, as you see here represented on this slide. Our 2 that we focus on is the keychain, which by its name is designed to fit on a keychain, and users treat it the same as they would their house key or their car key. Stays with them, stays on their keychain, and it becomes ubiquitous when they move around from system to system. Of course, to the left here we have our nano form factor. This is an extremely popular form factor for those that operate in mobile devices such as laptops. And if you ever run into any Google or Facebook users, you'll notice that they all use a nano in their devices. It stays resident in their laptop USB, and it's the contact is on the edge. So to release the key, it's a contact to the edge of the device versus a tap to the top of the device. Same functionality, 1 tap. Above this hardware layer sits our software layer. This is where we focus around applets and the ability to support multiple protocols within our devices. While we have new protocols that are entering in the market around FIDO U2F, the need for organizations to support legacy protocols still exists today. So YubiKey is very unique in the market that we can support multiple protocols on a single platform off of a single device. And so as you see here, we support a range of different software capabilities within our products. Everything from U2F, which is the Universal Second Factor FIDO initiative, to CCID PIV, OpenPGP, as well as Oath and several other OTP offerings from UBOTP to HOTP and TOTP. And of course, at the far right, we also talk about our hardware security module, allowing us to secure servers, as Stina mentioned early on in this presentation. Now as we move up the stack again, you'll notice that we offer our product in a couple of different form factors and models. At the far left is our entry-level device that's focused around a single protocol. That single protocol retails and is available through sources such as Amazon or directly via our web store, and the retail price is on average $18 US. As we move up, we also provide our preeminent device being the YubiKey Neo. The Neo is designed to allow a suite of protocols, as we mentioned in the software layer, to be bound to a single device. So now I can have a single device that allows me to authenticate into my VPN utilizing OTP, would allow me to, once connected, utilize a PIV certificate to authenticate into my domain. Using the same device, I can then touch to access my Google for Works account. Utilize OTP to then authenticate into my Salesforce account, and I can do all of that functionality from a single device. This was really designed to end what I like to refer to as the janitor keychain problem. If you've ever worked in a secure environment, you know the challenge of carrying around multiple tokens and multiple devices needed to access your different systems. We minimize that by now being able to collapse all that down into a single form factor. Then, of course, at the top of the stack, we talk about our services. So our services range from being supporting. We also provide validation services in the form of open source software, as well as we work with partners to provide validation services on the back end. And then we also provide customization services to allow organizations to either have full ownership and control over the secrets and the secure element, as well as ensuring that no one outside the organization is storing or keeping those keys and that initial seed secret. So as you can see here, we offer a range of capabilities, starting at the hardware, all the way up through the ability for organizations to scale and deploy the system, regardless of whether you have an existing back-end solution or need a system that can provide that back-end solution utilizing tools such as the UB Cloud. Now with that, I'm going to give, as I like to say, most of engineers, we tend to be from Missouri, which is the show me state. So now we're going to actually demo the product, and I'm going to show you how we can actually simply use Google as well as Dropbox and enroll a security key within those accounts. So give me one moment, and I'm going to switch over to a demo. I'm going to actually allow you to see as I am interacting with my device. Here I'm going to start by enrolling a key into my Google account. Anyone that has Gmail as of October of last year has the ability to now enroll a security key, as well as all Google for Works. In April of this year, Google rolled it out to all of their enterprise users. So the first step that you need to do is ensure that you have two-step verification enabled on your account. As we see here, I have two-step verification. It's turned on in my account. Once I have enabled two-step verification, you'll get a new tab that shows up under your security settings. That is described as security keys. So under my security keys, if I select manage, it's going to prompt me to verify through my first factor that I am who I say I am. Once my first factor has been verified, it's now going to allow me to enroll a security key. As you can see here, I've already enrolled one security key, and Google allows me to enroll up to 10 keys on a single account. Now, one of the unique factors on U2F that we'll discuss later is the ability to protect the privacy of the individual as well as the organization because of the way it utilizes and creates keys. There's no ability for this relying party to correlate my key to any other key that I've used. So they don't know if I'm using this key across multiple other accounts, if I've shared this key, if this is a key that belongs to my wife or child. They have no ability to correlate that information or that data. So I'm going to add an additional security key to my account. You'll see here that it walks you through the process. Tells you to make sure you have your security key with you. I'll ask you to insert upon register. So I'm going to take my security key here, the keychain model that you see. I'm going to insert. Upon insert, it's going to enumerate the device. When it flashes, it tells me it's ready to read my device. Upon tap, you see that I have a registered key. It is that simple, and it is. I say done, you'll see that I now have 2 keys registered to my account. So if I lose a key, forget a key, I can simply come in here and remove that key from my account. Now let's switch over to Dropbox. Actually, let me log out of this account and show you how it functions in real use. So now I'm going to sign out of my Google account. Now when I enter back into my account, it's going to ask me for my first factor. Now it's going to request for my second factor. So now it's going to, you'll see my YubiKey is flashing, waiting for my response. Upon tap of my key, it's that simple and that fast. I'm into my account. Can't get any more streamlined and more efficient than that. So now I can remove that key because I'm now authenticated into my account. You'll notice I unselect the option to have it remember. I can cache that credential for a certain amount of time, but that is a risk assessment and a security issue of whether or not you want that option on or off. Now let's look at how we do it in my Dropbox. Very similar. You see here in my Dropbox under my profile, if I actually come into my security tab under settings, I have an option here for security keys. Again, once I've turned on my two-step verification, if I come into my security keys, again, you'll see that I can have more than one key enrolled and registered with this account. And I'm going to add a new key to this account, just like I did with my Google account. Again, it's going to request my first factor. So I'm going to verify via my first factor. It's going to request that I insert my keychain or any key. Upon insert, it's going to enumerate the device. Now once I begin to my setup, it's going to tell me to insert my security key into a USB. I tell it that I have inserted my key. You can see that it is flashing, waiting for my response. Upon response, it tells me that that key has been added. Again, that simple, that straightforward. Now if we log out of this account, and we will go back into this account. And of course, I've done this enough times. It's now wanting a CAPTCHA response. Now it prompts me to insert my key. You'll see that my key has been enumerated. It is flashing, waiting for my response. Again, you'll see that there's an option that I can say trust this computer to cache this for a certain amount of time. If my risk assessment or if I'm working from a shared or an untrusted environment, of course I would not want to select that option. So in this case, I'm going to leave that unselected. I'm going to tap my key. I've now provided that strong second factor and I'm back into my account. It is that simple to enroll, monitor, and manage my keys across these platforms. And you'll notice that it was the same key. I did not change keys. I can now use this same key for an unlimited number of U2F providers. So I'm going to shut off that demo and we will return to the presentation. So again, simplicity was one of the primary focuses. And U2F as a protocol, the strength of U2F is really its ability to scale. As we see here, U2F requires no drivers, client software, or middleware. So the drivers are native, but it does require browser support. Today it's native to Chrome, but it's in the works with the other providers. So Mozilla is in works as well as Edge and IE to address. It's also highly scalable and continues to protect your privacy. One of the uniquenesses of the universal second factor is it's bringing PKI capabilities into the realm of authentication, meaning that every time I enroll under U2F with a new relying party, my device contains a crypto element that is responsible for minting and creating a key pair and providing that relying party my public key and a key handle. So that changes the entire landscape and the risk and liability associated to organizations that are storing credentials for users, such as the attack that Stina mentioned against GAO, because that's becoming a very prevalent attack vector is to go after those stores. In the case of U2F, if that store is compromised, the attacker gains a bunch of public keys. I now, as the user or the organization, have control of my privacy and security by maintaining that key and the crypto element. So there's no shared secrets between any of those service providers. And user and organizations, again, maintain control of that privacy and that security. It also focuses on great user experience, because at the end of the day, if security is too onersome for the users, we all have seen that model. Users find ways to circumvent, or they do not utilize the security mechanism. By providing a great, simple user experience ensures adoption. And adoption is really what's going to change the security landscape to make it much more difficult for attackers when we start eliminating the low-hanging fruit and the simplicity of how they can go after some of these users. So to register and authenticate, as you saw, is a simple touch of the button. One U2F device can be registered to any number of U2F service providers. And also the ease of acquisition. It's available via Yubico or website as well as Amazon. It also allows us to deliver via NFC and soon Bluetooth to handle pretty much any platform and any device. And of course, we're also seeing stats coming in from our customer base talking about some of the benefits on the enterprise side. We've seen Google starting to report back to us that they've had a 40% reduced support cost by utilizing and transitioning to the YubiKey. It provides them a 4 times faster login experience, and we'll talk briefly about that on the next slide. And it's provided significant fraud reduction, which are all 3 very important things for organizations in today's security landscape. But how does it move into the enterprise? So we've talked about Dropbox, we've talked about Google, and while both of those organizations provide an enterprise offering, many enterprises are heterogeneous environments that need to support a wide range of varying solutions. So for all of those coming in from those different heterogeneous environments, the native support, again for U2F, is focused around the online providers today. So that's why we see organizations such as Google, Dropbox, and Salesforce have adopted this solution, and not only have they adopted it internally for all of their enterprise, they also are now starting to enable it for their user base. And the first 2 we saw do that was Google and Dropbox around U2F. We also focus around native support, the ability to support Microsoft, Linux, and any platform. The fact that it enumerates as a HID device, requires no drivers, no software, provides for the widest range of adoption across platforms and across devices. But we also realize that there's a significant investment in legacy solutions, as well as the need to work with partners that need to authenticate in a multitude of different environments. So for that, we partner and work with companies such as Ping, Okta, Duo, LastPass, RC Devs, and the list is growing every day. You can find this list on our website as well as on our forums of how you can easily integrate with these solutions. Of course, we continue to promote and provide open source software out into the industry. So out on our forums and our GitHub, we continue to provide the libraries and availability for users to actually deploy and integrate the Yubico solution directly into their enterprises today, utilizing an open source software stack. But we often get asked, why do I need a YubiKey if I've got my phone? And of course, we're seeing a changing security landscape around phones and mobile devices today. One, we'll go down the list here and talk briefly about each of these. Security. Well, one of the challenges is phones are becoming more vulnerable to malware attacks as they're becoming more prevalent in the use of authentication and security. We're also seeing an increase in the number of attacks and the focused attacks. Recently, this last week, that was indicated by having Apple announcing that there were 4,000 compromised apps in the App Store. Of course, that began when it was we were notified that there were 400 apps that had been backdoored coming out of a group out of China. So as we start seeing these devices becoming more prevalent and more utilized as a central security device, we're also seeing the security risk increase for those devices. Of course, then we also have accessibility. Users are not always able to use their mobile phones. If you've ever worked in a data center, you often know that it operates as a Faraday cage. You know, the moment you walk in, you may not have a signal, or the signal could be much degraded. Then we talk about speed. One touch for authentication, as well as other functions that are being released, greatly increases the speed and efficiency for users. This is what is often referred to in the industry as friction. This is what really got us started with many of our cloud partners today, was dealing with a friction issue, and many users ask, well, what does friction have to do with the process? Well, a normal authentication process utilizing a smartphone and an authenticator can be, a 30 to 45 second delay. To a standard user, when they look at 30 to 45 seconds, they kind of look at that and say, what's that impact to me? But if you're a systems administrator, for example, or a developer, and you're needing to authenticate 100, 200 times a day, a 30 to 45 second delay in that process is a significant amount of friction in my daily process. So this was often how a lot of organizations started looking at this solution, was the ability to minimize that friction and provide a higher reliability than what they were seeing off their mobile phones. because when we talk about reliability, again, phones are a device that can break. I know I break my phone probably at least once a year if I'm on my normal roll. Of course, they run out of battery, they can go dead, they can have additional problems, they can get hung up, so reliability becomes a factor. Of course, it doesn't mitigate that device. That is a great device that can provide a backup mechanism, and that's what we see as very common in the industry as a model, is that they will transition over to the YubiKey as their primary strong second factor, but still rely on that mobile as a secondary backup mechanism. Now, risk assessment and policy may reverse that model. Providing flexibility is paramount in our offerings so that organizations have a choice of what mechanism and what path they want to go down to as far as which are they going to use as primary, what are they going to use as secondary, and providing that flexibility and options to organizations is stronger than ever before. Of course, privacy is one of the paramount functions in the need for authentication, because that's an area that is greatly under attack today. And of course, phones risk that privacy because they have SIM compromises that have been introduced. As of last year, we saw some major SIM breaches occurring, as well as there's a suite of fairly scary tools available in the market that if you've ever taken the time to look at what you can do in compromising mobile phones is pretty scary. If you've ever seen Citizen4, it kind of highlights some of those issues. And of course, organizations large and small have the ability now to attack those platforms. And of course, multi-purpose. The challenge of getting all the needed functionality into a smartphone that can be done on a YubiKey requires now multiple apps and sometimes a lot of complication for the user when utilizing that platform. So the YubiKey with the mobile. This is the common model that we often see. Of course, we highly recommend to most organizations that one of the advantages of having the YubiKey in conjunction with a mobile phone is it now allows you to separate the keys from the platform, which provides an increased level of security by separating the keys from the environment of the information in the applications that are being used to authenticate. However, today it's still very common, just as you saw when I went through the demo, to provide a backup mechanism. So on both my Gmail as well as my Dropbox account, I still utilize my mobile as a backup device to my YubiKey. So it allows me to register my phone or an alternate email. So in the event I lose my key or forget my key at home, I still have a mechanism to get in and gain access to my services. So we're not recommending completely displacing, but it provides a path and augmentation to provide you a more secure environment while still utilizing that mobile phone for all of its benefits. Of course, companies like Google, Dropbox, LastPass, they've all standardized on this approach of having the YubiKey as the primary device and using the mobile device as a backup to that primary device. Today, Android support native NFC, so you can actually tap and go utilizing a YubiKey standard. Soon we're going to have a Bluetooth version that will allow for devices that are not NFC standard to also be able to have the same benefit that is available to NFC users today on the Android platform. But what if I lose my YubiKey? Well, as we just discussed, if I've lost my YubiKey, I have a couple of options. One, I can fall back to a secondary device. Of course, most of our customers and most organizations tend to procure multiple YubiKeys for their users. Because as we discussed earlier, they have found that the support cost of dealing with users' calls coming in to provide a backup mechanism was actually much higher than the cost of a second YubiKey for those users. So it's no different than my car keys or my house keys. I tend to have a backup. I don't have just one key because in the event that key gets lost or just misplaced, I want to have a mechanism that I can still start my car, still get into my house, still access my systems. But we continue to also provide backup mechanisms through those service providers. So if you combine a YubiKey with tools like SMS and the mobile apps, now you have multiple vectors to be able to access the account in the event you lose the key. Now, if a key is permanently lost or stolen, you would go through the normal mechanisms as when any security device and security key is lost or stolen. The first step would be revoking those keys. The ability to revoke is just as simple as the ability to enroll. As you saw in the demo, I can go straight into my account. I can utilize a backup mechanism. If I do not have my key, I could have them send me an SMS message. Once I've entered into my account, I can now go in and revoke and eliminate those keys from my account so they're no longer usable. And at the same time, I can enroll a replacement key. I can do all of that in about 5 steps in about less than a minute. And of course, if it's a stolen key, you still have the window of time that they still have to compromise the first factor before that second factor can be utilized. So that's the window of time that you would have to operate to go revoke and change those keys to protect those accounts and protect access to those environments. But now what about my server? So we've talked a lot about the desktop, talked a lot about the mobile, but as Stina mentioned, we're also aware that servers are a growing attack vector, always have been an attack vector, but we're seeing the challenge for organizations as more and more servers are being stood up to provide specific services due to virtualization and the plummeting cost of hardware. The problem becomes, how do we scale and protect those servers when a traditional hardware security product on the market typically goes for about $10,000 as the entry point to get into that side of the game. So when we're scaling and seeing a rapid increase in the number of servers deployed, also driving the need for a lower cost solution in these highly scaled environments becomes very pressing for organizations. So we're releasing our HSM at a list price of about $500 in the market. It's going to really focus on providing the same level of crypto protection and security to the server that we focus around providing to the user. We've already had 1.0 has been out on the market and has been proven with its scalability within multiple of our enterprise customers, have already scaled and deployed our solution. But in 2016, we're releasing our 2.0 that's going to have more advanced features really focused around scale for this platform, again addressing the need to bring the crypto secure element into the servers at a low cost, highly scalable capability. And with that, I will turn it back over to Stina.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So to manufacture YubiKeys with high security, high quality, and at scale, we have invented a new fully automated way to manufacture USB keys. In our production plants in Sweden and in California, we mold electronics directly into a solid piece of plastic. The design is very robust. There are no batteries, no moving parts. YubiKeys have been run over by cars, gone through laundry, eaten by dogs, and survived. There are no encryption secrets stored at our production facilities or shared with any third party. We offer personalization tools for customers to easily program their own keys and cryptographic secrets. We know that it's not a matter of if, but when databases with secrets will be hacked. And we want to avoid that for our own sake and for our customers' sake. Next slide. So before we go into questions from you, all of you, I'd like to summarize what we learned today on this webinar and the key benefits and features of the YubiKey. So it offers public key crypto protecting against phishing and man-in-the-middle attack, really the highest level of strong authentication. It works with an instant touch out of the box. Without the need for a central service provider, it allows one device to work with any number of services, and it allows one device to hold multiple authentication protocols. There are no time synchronization issues. It's very durable. And to verify that there is a real user and not a Trojan remotely trying to control your device, we have added a unique user touch sensor to verify a real person behind the desk. It allows for self-registration. Users can buy the YubiKeys online, and we have seen large tech companies distributing YubiKeys from a fishbowl in the cafeteria or from a vending machine. And finally, Yubico allows users and organizations to fully own and control their online identity and their encryption secrets. So I'm going to end now with a great quote from one of our customers. Our customers are and will continue to be our biggest advocate. And here is from Facebook, who have deployed YubiKeys across all staff.
Okay, thank you, Stina, and that's a great quote to end the presentation on. So at this time, I will answer some of the questions that came in through our moderator. And feel free, if you've got questions, to go type those into the chat, and we'll get as many of these as we can. So one, what's the release schedule for a YubiKey app for iOS that will work with the NFC chips of the YubiKey Neo and new iPhones? Well, one of the challenges there is that the iPhones today do not follow the NFC standard. Apple is utilizing a unique approach to NFC. So we don't really have control over that, so there's no ability for us to create an app that can interface with a closed proprietary implementation of NFC. Now, with that said, we continue to work with Apple and identify mechanisms, and that's the focus around Bluetooth for next year, is to allow iOS users to have a delivery mechanism that does not rely on NFC, so that you can utilize both the mobile device as well as things like tablets on the iOS that are not adhering to standard NFC. So stay tuned to that one. Again, in 2016, we'll be releasing a Bluetooth model to address that. Next question is, can Yubico update the YubiKey personalization tool on the Mac App Store to support Retina display? That's a very good question. I will make note of that and see what the options are there to increase. I'm assuming you're looking for increased resolution and more of a usability. I will add that to my list. Thank you for that input. Question 3. I love using the Yubico PAM module in order to SSH into the servers which I administer. How robust is the YubiCloud service? What precautions have been put in place to prevent failure of this service? So the YubiCloud service has been built as a high availability redundant environment. So we have foreseen the issues of needing a highly scalable, highly reliable environment, and it's been architected to assure that we have the 5 nines of uptime. If you want more information about the YubiCloud and how it's been deployed, feel free to reach out on our forums. We do provide architectural diagrams that are available there for you to see the infrastructure and see how it's been architected. Of course, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to someone at Yubico, and we'll be happy to address as deep as you would like to go into what that environment looks like. We also provide the suite of the same capability in YubiCloud for organizations to deploy internally to allow you to stand up your own authentication infrastructure if you need to have that level of security and control. But we'd be happy to discuss that deeper if you have any additional questions. Question 4. Can you discuss how to configure the YubiKey for use with U2F? Say you have a Neo and want to configure it to use as a U2F second factor with Google. Well, one of the beauties of U2F is that there's no configuration required. If you have a U2F capable device, the crypto element in the device, when queried and registering with the relying party, is responsible for minting a public key and a key handle and a nonce that it's going to provide to that relying party. So there's no configuration required on the device itself. The protocol itself, each time it mints a new key, it's utilizing that same stored private secret in the device. So you're not having to write back to the device. Each time it's creating a new key pair and providing that relying party that key handle with that public key to utilize when you come back in on a challenge. So there is nothing that has to be changed. It doesn't require any writing back to the device, and that's what gives it that one-to unlimited scalability, which is why we've seen so many organizations get behind the FIDO U2F. In the last year alone, the membership has doubled, and it includes such large financial companies as Goldman Sachs and Visa and MasterCard, as well as tech innovators such as Google and Microsoft. So we're seeing more and more organizations realizing the benefit of really looking at changing the dynamics of authentication and really bringing in the tried and proven PKI capabilities into the world of authentication. Next question. Will the Bluetooth support be a new YubiKey, or will it be backward compatible with an existing? It will be a new YubiKey, because the need to support Bluetooth also requires a new form factor, because we will have to now have power and capabilities in the device that allows it to register and communicate with the Bluetooth. So unfortunately, it will be a new device, but look forward to that device because it's going to open up a world of new capabilities. Next question. Do you sell outside of the U.S.? Yes, we do. As Stina mentioned, today we're in 150 different countries. It's available in many locations and locales around the world via Amazon, or you can always reach out for full coverage of the globe directly to Yubico. So we also have an e-commerce site that you can procure from, but of course if you're in a question and have questions about delivery into certain parts of the world, please reach out to our sales teams. They're there to assist you in identifying how to get product into the region of the world that you're interested in. Next question. Why are large banks, etc., not jumping on the bandwagon? Well, we're starting to see that change. Banks are notoriously conservative, which if you're a banking customer, we do appreciate that on occasion, to be somewhat conservative in nature. But because of the changing landscape and the risk associated to both their users and their environments, and the amount of the ratio of fraud and abuse, because most banks will accept a certain ratio. The cost of changing it outweighs what they lose in fraud. As those dynamics change, it forces those institutions to recalculate and relook at those ratios. Because of the types of attacks we're seeing that are growing in the market, we are seeing banks starting to step up and take notice. That's why if you actually look at those that have joined FIDO in the last year, those are some of the largest banking and financial organizations in the world that have stepped into FIDO and realized that they've got to start addressing and moving forward. So stay tuned. We are seeing banks starting to move forward. How quickly is anyone's guess, but we do expect to see some large financial institutions start making some announcements around U2F in 2016, just due to the amount of momentum and interest that they've had in both the technology as well as our product set. Okay, question 8. Will the YubiKey work with authenticating to a Citrix NetScaler? Well, I can give the consulting answer. It depends, but the short answer is yes, depending upon the implementation and configuration. Because if you're utilizing NetScaler in OTP, OTP is a hit device that's doing a pass-through. So anything that is requiring just a pass-through string for OTP can be utilized using a YubiKey. So the short answer would be yes, but the long answer is there's also some outliers that could determine the reliability and how you've implemented your NetScaler and what protocol suite that you've chosen. Question 9. Do you confirm FIDO U2F support is in development for Firefox browser? Well, of course, any product and anything that's outside of our company, we cannot make any firm commitments or promises. What we can confirm is there is significant interest within the Firefox and Mozilla community. We've had numerous discussions with that organization, so we have confidence that they are working on addressing that problem, and we've also seen a tremendous upswelling of their user base demanding that they move forward with support. But as far as making a commitment to the which version and the timing, unfortunately we can't do that because that's not our organization, but I can confirm that the discussion is continuing and that there is interest of moving forward from Mozilla and Firefox. Question 10. Can people sign up to help beta test a Bluetooth product? We always welcome participation from organizations and individuals, so if you would like to contact us, feel free to reach out to Yubico. We can provide you an email into product management at the end of this call, and we're happy to take those requests and add you to the list, and then we prioritize based on verticals, markets. There's a lot that goes into that decision, but we definitely always welcome participation from both our customers as well as the community. Next question. Do you expect Facebook to utilize U2F as a second factor for their user base? Well, again, our hopes is that we hope every organization that's especially a web service-based organization to look at U2F moving forward because of the advantages that U2F brings both to the organization providing the service, in this case Facebook, as well as back to the consumer. So we always hope, I guess is a better term than expect, and that hope comes from the ability to see the amount of momentum and the change that FIDO U2F is bringing into the marketplace, and those changes and benefits are becoming very evident to organizations. So we would hope and foresee organizations such as Facebook seeing those same benefits long term and looking at adjusting their authentication mechanism to accommodate a stronger mechanism. Because as we said earlier, it also changes the liability issue for those organizations that are storing credentials for users. Because in the traditional model, and if we take the GAO, that not only did they breach the database, they got a hold of the biometric dynamic, so they've now got the particulars for 11 million users' fingerprints, and that's a painful remediation if you need to go change your fingerprint. So the liability for organizations storing those is growing from a risk factor. And U2F provides them a mitigating path to change that dynamic by only having to store public keys and a key handle. In the event that store is compromised, there's no risk back to their user base. So the benefits alone, we hope over time, is going to bring more organizations such as Facebook, who are already utilizing YubiKeys internally, to realize the benefit it has externally to their customers, which is exactly what Google realized and why Google was one of the first to market to enable and roll out, and we've now seen Dropbox has joined at the table, and we're seeing more organizations lining up. So it's going to be an exciting next year as we watch organizations start to realize the benefits and start enabling U2F for their user base. So stay tuned, the landscape is changing every week. Next question. Plan to make a YubiKey with only U2F that support USB and NFC and a BLE in the future. Okay, let me break that down into some parts here. So we do provide YubiKeys today that can be one or multiple protocols. And what we realize moving forward is that we need to start offering the ability to specify what protocol load that you would need as a user in an organization. So today you can get a U2F only that supports but you're looking to support USB and NFC. So that is on the roadmap to allow for kind of an a la carte customization. Exactly where we come down on that and where we draw those dividing lines is still under discussion and research. So if you've got input, feel free to reach out to our forums and provide that input. I always value that coming from the marketplace. As we look at how we're going to refine and mature the product moving forward, we definitely want to address the needs of our users as well as our customers out there in the market. So that's a very valid request. It is something that is on our table, and we're looking at that today. Stay tuned for what that's going to look like coming in 2016 of how we're going to refine how you can specify the protocol suites that you're interested in. And that is all of the current questions. Let me look at some of the older questions. If there's any additional questions, feel free to type those to the moderator. And let me do one more quick view to make sure I didn't miss any questions here. I think I've got all of those questions. So with that, we are a few minutes ahead of schedule. I greatly appreciate everyone's time today on this webinar. We look forward to the next webinar. And with that, I will turn it over to Stina to see if she has any last words.
Thank you, everyone, for being on this webinar. And thank you. I look forward to seeing you as our customers and partners. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Stina, and thank you, everyone, for your participation. If there's no additional questions, I will give it here another moment or two for any last questions to come in. If you would like to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to the moderator, and he can provide you contact information. And I will end it here. Again, thank you, everyone, for your time today.